So good morning, everyone. Trust you had a great dinner last night, and for some of you may have been able to see the sights of this fantastic city. My name's Tim Brailsford. I'm from Bond University, and it's my great pleasure to be your MC for the day. So I'm going to be jumping up and down a bit and trying to keep you all under control. Today is day two, and it does extend the quite lively discussion yesterday. And I can tell you, as the Vice-Chancellor, it's actually a great pleasure to come to a conference where we're talking about learning and teaching and not funding models and the federal budget. However, as you would have heard yesterday from Andrew Norton, it is almost impossible not to have the spectre of funding sitting over our discussions around learning and teaching because, of course, we all want to get paid at the end of the day. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land, and on behalf of everyone here, pay my respects to elders past and present. The last time I was speaking in this particular room was probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and my own background is financial economics, and I'd been invited by a conference organiser who was putting together a discussion around industry super funds. And these super funds are basically the collection of people's savings for retirement. And I was a little misled as to who the audience were. I thought I was talking to the superannuation industry, and that is the people who actually manage funds. And so in many of our cases, of course, we all belong to the university's collective superannuation fund. The old SSAU, which is now UniSuper, and so I thought I was talking to the people who actually manage the money. And we were talking about returns and the way that this was just post-GFC, so this must have been 2008, 2009, so we're talking about sort of global economic forces and so on. And I made the remark that part of the problem was with the superannuation industry is that there are so many people that take a bit of a slice on the way through. And what these people do, they're basically distribution agents. And so when you actually make a contribution to a fund, be it a superannuation fund or a mutual fund, there will typically be an intermediary. And that intermediary charge a commission. And the system of commissions here in Australia, up until recently, has been fairly unregulated. And so some of these commissions are called trailing commissions, which means that there is actually a small percentage of your contribution that is basically lost forever because every year they keep on taking, albeit a smaller, but a slice. And what I was saying is that one of the great pitfalls post-GFC was that while the actual return on funds invested was likely to go down, which it has, unfortunately the fees were probably going to remain, which meant that all the agents in the middle were still going to be taking their slice of the ticket on the way through. And the consequence is that the sort of poor end game users, that is the people who are contributing the money, were not going to receive the full benefit of it. In some cases, they were actually going to have negative returns. So you put in $100 today, and in 2 years' time, that $100 is worth $90. And in 10 years' time, it's worth $70, right? Anyhow, so I was on about this, and this is a bit of a passion of mine because I don't actually believe that these agents add a lot of value. So I was talking about this, and then there was great sort of grumbling in the audience, and then I realised that I wasn't actually talking to the people who managed the money, I was talking to the people who attracted the money, I was talking to the agents themselves. And it all became very obvious, and there was sort of nowhere to go when you're standing up in front of a few hundred people with a microphone. So I looked for the nearest door. Now, for those of you who have spent all day in here yesterday, you will recognise that the doors are not the easiest things. There's one door over there, and then you've got a set of emergency doors over here. Well, I decided that that door over there was too far to walk. So I walked straight out of there and just kept on going. Never been invited back since. But it's good to be back here at this particular venue. So I trust you are going to treat me just a little kinder than my last experience here. Look, I am a member of the National Office for Learning and Teaching Strategic Advisory Committee. I was one of the inaugural advisory committee members, and we have had a fantastic journey over the last few years. There is certainly some volatility around the sector at the moment, but I think the great thing about the OLT is that it has actually put learning and teaching back on the map. I think we have tended to go in cycles a little in terms of the visibility of learning and teaching, particularly within government. Though many of those of you may remember the good old days of the Carrick Institute, and then we had the ALTC, and then that was disbanded quite quickly and quite suddenly and quite dramatically. And now we have the OLT, and I would like to pay credit to the staff of the OLT who have been extraordinarily hard working in some quite difficult circumstances. And when we sat down at the end of last year, which is the last meeting of the year, is always a sort of strategy and review meeting, so how have we gone and what are we going to do next year, and we spoke about pulling together this conference. I think probably in our wildest dreams from the office, we were thinking that maybe there might be 100, 150 people interested, so it is absolutely fantastic to see that there are around 300 people who are passionate and interested and willing to invest 2 valuable days of your life talking and listening to topics around learning and teaching. There was an important signing ceremony last night, which was the MOU with Aka Aotearoa, our sister organisation from over the ditch, so to speak. So with the linkages that we now have into the UK and with signing up the New Zealanders, we are actually becoming very global in our thinking, and certainly global in our connectivity. And I think those ties are going to be increasingly important as we move forward, because the world of learning and teaching, while we may sit in our fishbowl here and think about the particular issues that impact upon the Australian university sector, the reality is that we're all part of a global sector. It is a global industry. The borders are fairly borderless, certainly with the world of the internet nowadays. And the challenges that we all face are inevitably going to be increasingly global challenges. So those international connections are quite important. So today we've got a whole range of topics and speakers. Bev Oliver from Deakin is going to kick us off. So I will now turn over to Beverly, who will present on universities, communities and graduate employability in light of disruptive technologies. Bev comes from Geelong, and while their football team has done reasonably well of late, and probably pretty well for the last decade or so, unfortunately Geelong's economy has been particularly hard hit. It is a regional economy down there. For those of you who don't know where Geelong is, it's probably an hour and a half out of the main CBD of Melbourne. It's a very strong, a very parochial local economy. As I say, the football team has done very well over the last decade, and I actually originate from Melbourne myself, and unfortunately my team is Richmond, and that just means that I'm continually depressed on Monday mornings. But as a boy, I occasionally used to get the train down to Cardinia Park, only to be absolutely thrashed and spend a very long Saturday afternoon coming back. And I hope that train ride is a bit more enjoyable nowadays. So, ladies and gentlemen, will you welcome Bev to the podium, and Bev's going to speak for the next 40 minutes or so.